Alright. I've never written this out before, at least not honestly. I've told fragments of it at bars, twisted it into something almost funny, something that made me sound clever instead of desperate. But this is the real version. My name's William. I ran an illegal online business for almost 4 years. When people hear that, they imagine some dark web mastermind in a hoodie typing in a candlelit basement. That wasn't me. I was 27, working a boring remote customer support job, sitting in a tiny apartment with thin walls and a bank account that kept hovering just above zero. I wasn't starving. I wasn't in danger. I was just tired of feeling small. It started as a shortcut. That's the honest truth. I found a niche online, something people wanted badly enough that they didn't ask too many questions. There was demand. There was money. And there was this little voice in my head saying, "You're not hurting anyone. You're just exploiting a system that's already broken." That voice was persuasive. At first, it wasn't even about greed. It was about control. I'd grown up watching my parents drown in debt. I told myself I'd never live like that. But there I was, refreshing my banking app like it was a slot machine, hoping for miracles. The idea came slowly. A few forums. A few late nights. A few. This is technically against the rules, but conversations with strangers who used usernames like Armor. The first time I considered actually doing it, my heart pounded so hard I had to close my laptop. I knew it was illegal. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. But it didn't feel like a crime yet. It felt like an opportunity sitting in a gray area. And the scariest part? I wasn't forced into it. I chose it. Once the idea stopped feeling hypothetical, I shifted into planning mode. That's when it stopped being a fantasy and started becoming a crime. The business was digital, selling access to restricted software and services using stolen credentials I bought in bulk from underground forums. I didn't hack anyone myself. I told myself that made it better. Cleaner. I was just the middleman. I spent weeks researching VPNs layered over other VPNs, encrypted messaging apps, crypto wallets that couldn't be easily traced. I learned more about online anonymity in a month than I had in my entire life. I made spreadsheets mapping out costs, projected revenue, risk factors. It looked disturbingly legitimate. I even created a fake brand. A sleek logo. A customer support email. Refund policies. I wanted it to look professional enough that no one would question it. Every step felt surreal. I'd plan everything at night, then wake up the next morning wondering if I was really about to cross a line I could never uncross. But I kept going. The first real sale was terrifying. I remember sitting on my bed, laptop balanced awkwardly on my knees, staring at the confirm payment button like it was a trigger I wasn't sure I wanted to pull. I had double-checked everything. VPN? On. Wallet? Funded. Customer info? Clean. Emails pre-written, just in case something went wrong. And yet my heart was hammering. I felt like a kid about to steal candy from the corner store, but candy that could get me locked up for years. I clicked it. Instantly, a confirmation popped up. Money in my crypto wallet. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the mouse. I laughed nervously, trying to convince myself it was fine. "It's just a number on a screen," I muttered. But the adrenaline was intoxicating. Then I realized something. I'd just crossed an invisible line. There was no going back. Every subsequent sale would feel like walking deeper into a shadow I couldn't see the bottom of. And yet, I couldn't stop. After that first transaction, things spiraled faster than I expected. I started advertising discreetly on private forums, refining my methods, and suddenly the tiny trickle of sales became a steady stream. Money was moving into my account almost daily, and the numbers were addicting. I started calculating how much I could make in a week, then a month. But with the thrill came fear. Every notification sounded like a siren. Every new email from a customer made my stomach twist. I began checking my VPNs obsessively, switching accounts, clearing logs, making backups. My brain was always half at work, half plotting contingency plans. I was living in a constant state of adrenaline. The apartment felt smaller, the walls closer. Even friends started noticing my twitchy excitement and nervous energy. I smiled at them, joked about work stress, but inside I knew the truth. The higher the money grew, the faster my fear grew. And I couldn't escape either. It all hit me one evening when I opened my laptop and saw an unfamiliar IP address logged into my account. My heart sank. For a split second I froze, staring at the screen like it would explain itself. My first thought, they've traced me. Panic set in, and I started checking every system, every login, every transaction. Turns out, it was just a glitch, or maybe someone careless on the forum. But that didn't stop my imagination from running wild. I spent the next hour wiping cookies, cycling VPNs, and triple-checking my crypto wallet security. I barely slept that night, imagining federal agents knocking on my door. The fear changed everything. The adrenaline that had been a rush before became a constant weight. My hands shook more when I typed. I jumped at every phone notification, and every new sale made me simultaneously euphoric and terrified. That night, I realized money was addictive, but fear was relentless. And no amount of planning could completely erase it. Things started to get messy a few months in. I thought I had control, but control is an illusion in this kind of life. One customer accidentally exposed a detail that could have linked back to me. Another complained loudly on a forum, drawing attention I didn't want. Every little mistake felt catastrophic. I remember one evening sitting in my darkened apartment, watching my bank notifications ping, and feeling a twist of panic in my stomach. Every sale brought joy and terror in equal measure. My careful spreadsheets couldn't account for human error, or the randomness of luck. I started noticing patterns I didn't like: IP addresses that seemed closer than they should, moderators asking questions I hadn't anticipated, forum threads disappearing suspiciously fast. I realized the higher I climbed, the thinner my safety net became. I had thought I was untouchable. I wasn't. I was a mouse in a maze of my own making, scurrying faster and faster, convinced that stopping, even for a second, would be the end. By the time I hit a year into the operation, paranoia had become my default state. Every sound outside my apartment, every unexpected message, even the neighbor's footsteps above me, felt like a warning. I started timing everything: when I sent emails, when I checked accounts, even when I ordered food, trying to avoid patterns that someone could track. Sleep became rare. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining investigators tracing my crypto transactions, imagining my face plastered on forums or news sites. I couldn't tell friends the truth, so I smiled, joked, and lied, all while my mind ran wild with what-ifs. The adrenaline rush that had once excited me now gripped me like a vice. Every successful transaction was a double-edged sword, proof I could succeed, proof I could also fail spectacularly. I realized something ugly. I was addicted, not just to money, but to the fear itself. The risk had become a drug, and the higher I climbed, the more I needed it to feel alive. It wasn't just paranoia anymore. Close calls started piling up. One night, a payment processor flagged a transaction and froze the funds. I spent hours frantically emailing and messaging, pretending to be a legitimate business, hard hammering the whole time. Another time, a forum moderator asked me questions I hadn't anticipated, and I had to fabricate answers on the spot, hoping no one noticed the slip of my tongue. Every interaction became a test. Every small mistake could unravel everything. I remember pacing my apartment for hours, laptop open, trying to think 3 steps ahead of people I didn't even know. And yet I kept going. The fear was intoxicating. Each close call made the victories feel sweeter, but it also chipped away at me. My confidence coexisted with constant dread. I'd laugh at a joke with friends, then immediately check my accounts to make sure nothing had gone wrong. Living like that, half triumph, half terror, was exhausting, but strangely addictive. Inevitably, I made a mistake. A small one, or so I thought at first, but in this game, small mistakes spiral fast. I sent the wrong link to a customer. It wasn't traceable directly to me, but it was enough to trigger questions on the forum. Suddenly, threads I monitored for safety started getting attention I didn't want. Panic set in like ice water. I scrambled to contain it, emails deleted, backups checked, logs wiped. I even considered abandoning everything overnight, disappearing without a trace. But walking away wasn't simple. I had money tied up, customers depending on service, and a pride that wouldn't let me back down. That night, adrenaline and guilt collided. My hands shook so badly I couldn't hold a pen. I realized I'd been underestimating the stakes for months. Every precaution I thought would keep me safe was just a thin veneer over chaos. And the deeper I got, the more dangerous it became, not just legally, but emotionally. I was addicted to the fear, but it was starting to consume me. A few weeks after that slip-up, I had my first real scare. A customer sent a message threatening to report me to authorities if I didn't resolve an issue immediately. My stomach sank. This wasn't hypothetical anymore. I felt the full weight of what I'd done pressing down on me. I spent hours drafting messages, pretending to be a legitimate business owner, hoping the threat would blow over. But sleep didn't come. Every creak in my apartment sounded like someone coming to knock on my door. My paranoia had finally merged with reality. I started thinking about how quickly it could all collapse. One call, one trace, and everything, my money, my freedom, my carefully constructed identity, could vanish. I realized that the thrill I'd chased for so long came with a constant undercurrent of terror, and there was no ignoring it. By the end of that week, I was exhausted, mentally and physically. The adrenaline highs were still there, but now they came with a heavier price, the constant reminder that I was playing with fire. By this point, the fear wasn't just a feeling, it had become a constant presence. I couldn't enjoy anything without thinking about what I might have overlooked, which transaction could expose me, which forum post could unravel months of careful work. The adrenaline that once thrilled me now felt like a weight dragging me under. I started isolating myself. Friends invited me out, but I declined. Too risky? Conversations became tests. Did I say too much? Did my laugh give me away? Even when I wasn't actively working, my mind was running security checks, imagining worst-case scenarios, calculating escape routes. I realized I had changed. I was sharper, smarter in some ways, but also paranoid, jittery, exhausted. I was living on the edge constantly, and the edge was starting to feel like home. I couldn't remember what normal life felt like anymore. The thrill and the fear were inseparable, and I began to understand a harsh truth. This business would demand everything from me, and it wasn't just about money anymore. It was about survival. It all escalated one night when a moderator on the forum started asking unusually detailed questions about my operation. I panicked. Every precaution I had taken, the VPNs, the anonymous wallets, the fake brand, felt suddenly flimsy. I spent hours tracing logs, checking emails, even rereading old messages for clues I might have left behind. Sleep became impossible. I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, imagining someone tracking my IP, imagining law enforcement tracing the crypto trail. Every notification made my chest tighten. I had become hyper-aware of everything, my surroundings, my computer, even my breathing. Yet, the money kept coming. And with it, a twisted sense of justification. I told myself that the risk was worth the reward, that I was smarter than anyone else, that I could handle it. But deep down, I knew the fear was no longer just a side effect, it had become the main event. I was addicted to the rush, even as it slowly ate away at me. I was teetering on a knife's edge, unsure which way I would fall. After nearly 2 years, the constant stress and paranoia started breaking me. Every day felt like walking a tightrope over a pit I couldn't see. I was exhausted, jittery, and haunted by a gnawing guilt I could never shake. I realized I could no longer operate normally. Even small mistakes could now cascade into disaster. One evening, I accidentally sent a customer a file that revealed too much. Luckily, they didn't notice, but the panic hit me like a punch. I shut my laptop, stared at the ceiling, and finally admitted it. I couldn't keep living like this. The money, the adrenaline, the control, it wasn't worth the constant terror anymore. I started weighing options. Could I cash out and disappear? Could I somehow sever ties cleanly without leaving breadcrumbs? Every plan seemed flawed. Every path carried risk. And for the first time, I truly understood the cost of my choices. Not just the legal consequences, but the psychological toll. I had built something dangerous, and I was trapped inside it with no easy escape. Eventually, I realized I had a choice: keep climbing into deeper chaos or find a way out before it was too late. I spent weeks planning my exit. Every customer interaction had to be wrapped up carefully. Every wallet needed to be emptied or disguised. Every trace I left online had to vanish. It felt like defusing a bomb with no room for error. The process was exhausting. I double-checked every step, reread every email, deleted every unnecessary log, and even changed my routine in real life to avoid leaving patterns behind. I wasn't just worried about getting caught anymore. I was worried about the mental collapse that had been creeping up for months. The final night, I closed my laptop and sat in the dark. Relief and fear mingled. I had survived, but I wasn't the same. The thrill, the rush, and the fear, they all left a mark. I realized the money had cost me more than I had imagined. I had escaped legally, but the experience would haunt me for years. Looking back, I can't believe how much of my life those 4 years consumed. The money was real, sure, but the fear, paranoia, and guilt were heavier than any ledger could show. I learned that no thrill is worth the constant anxiety of knowing one wrong move could destroy everything. I learned that control is mostly an illusion, especially in a game that depends on luck and secrecy. I also realized how easily I rationalized my actions, telling myself I wasn't hurting anyone, that I was just exploiting loopholes. That rationalization was my safety net, but it didn't protect me from the emotional toll. I lost sleep, lost friends' trust, and constantly second-guessed my own judgment. If there's any advice I can give someone even remotely tempted by this kind of life, think long and hard. The highs are intoxicating, but the lows are relentless, and the fear never really leaves you. Money isn't worth giving yourself over to constant terror. The risk feels exciting until it isn't, and then it's just fear, loneliness, and regret. I survived. I got away. But I carry it with me every day.